Hello, no, whoops. It's August 22nd, 2017. Talk to you about the Big 12 football preview of the season. So, yeah, that's going to happen. It's alphabetical order. This is the list I'm looking off from Yahoo Sports. So, before you people get all mad that I'm going in some random order, it's alphabetical, okay? Starting off with Baylor. Rough start for them. If you're a Baylor fan, just leave now. No, I'm just kidding. Just skip you this portion. Win against Liberty and UTSA. Loss at Duke. Loss against Oklahoma. Loss at Kansas State. Loss against Oklahoma State. Loss against West Virginia. Loss against Texas. Win at Kansas. Loss at Texas Tech. Loss against Iowa State. And then a close loss at TCU because it's a rivalry game. So that's that. I don't know what much else to say. Not going to be too many close games, but that's all I got on those Baylor Bears. So yeah, next up, Iowa State. So yeah, Iowa State. They're going to be better this year than what people think. They got the season started off with a win against Northern Iowa. They lose versus Iowa at home. They win at Akron. They lose against Texas. Lose at Oklahoma big time. They don't lose. They beat Kansas handily. They lose at Texas Tech. They lose against West Virginia. I skipped a game, sorry. They beat TCU. So TCU is going to be all sad. They lose against Oklahoma State. I just screwed up so bad there. I'm sorry. They win at Baylor, and they lose at Kansas State, leaving them at a solid 5-7, which shows that their program is, in fact, improving. So that's Iowa State's season. They are on the rise. Good for them. So, yeah. If you are a Kansas fan, you might also want to tune out. It's a rough season for the I don't like these on my ear right now. Rough season for Kansas. So they start off hot. A hot Kansas start, like hot for Kansas. Southeastern Missouri State, they beat handily. And then everything else is a blowout loss. So they're 1-11. Actually, I take that back. They keep one game close, and that's against Texas Tech. And they keep that somewhat close. And Baylor, they might keep it close, but I think Baylor's just going to be so mad that they might blow it out. Next up is Kansas State. So, yeah, going to their schedule. That looks big on my head. Yeah. They start off winning all their non-conference games, and they win at Vanderbilt, which is their Power 5 they have to play. And they beat Baylor at home. They lose against Texas on the road. They beat TCU at home. They lose against Oklahoma. They beat Kansas. They beat Tech on the road. That was a very difficult game to choose because it was in Lubbock, and I didn't know, what could happen in Lubbock. You don't know what Tech's team is going to be like this year. It's going to be chaos. Loss against just kidding. I already said Tech. They won against Tech, and then they stunned West Virginia, beat West Virginia at home. They lose at Oklahoma State, and they close out the season with a win against Iowa State. I think they will have a decent season, 9-3, but not enough to put them in the Big 12 championship game, but gets them to a pretty good bowl game. Oklahoma is next up on the list. So, yeah. That didn't fit too well. Yeah, this is just going to go like this. They start off the season against UTEP with a loss, and they lose everything else. No, I'm just kidding. They beat UTEP handily. They go to Ohio State on the road week 2. They lose that game. They beat Tulane. They win at Baylor. They beat Iowa State. They go through a streak of winning. And then they lose against Texas in the Cotton Bowl because it's the first time since 1947 that's been a first-year Texas coach and a first-year Oklahoma coach. And Tom Herman has more head coaching experience and has more returning starters. Oklahoma lost Samaje Perine. Joe Mixon, D.D. Westbrook, and there's some freshmen coming in. You don't know what they could do, but I'm giving it to Texas because they have more returning starters on the line, defense, quarterback Shane Buechele. They don't. The biggest hole they have is running back. They don't have Deontay Foreman anymore, but they do still have Chris Warren if he can stay healthy. They barely edge out Kansas State on the road. They beat Tech at home. They lose at Oklahoma State, and then they win out against TCU at home, at Kansas, and versus West Virginia at home. So a 9-3 season for them, and once again not making it to but they don't make it to the Big 12 championship. So yeah. Next up, Oklahoma State. That is not. Yep, there it is. Okay, they win all their non-conference. They beat Tulsa. They beat South Alabama on the road. They beat Pittsburgh on the road handily, except Pittsburgh. That might be a closer game than people expect. They beat TCU at home. They win at Tech. They win against Baylor at home. They win at Texas. And then their toughest game of the year, in my opinion, is at West Virginia, which will be a road match against West Virginia. It's always hard to play in West Virginia. And I think that they will lose to West Virginia, and West Virginia will pull off the upset and mess with everyone's head for the Big 12 picture. Then they went against Oklahoma at home. They beat Iowa State on the road. They went against Kansas State at home, and then they beat Kansas. So I have them in the Big 12 championship at 11-1, which is good for them. So they're going to have a good season, as you could hear. TCU, next up. Hold on. TCU. They have the same record as they did last year, 6-6 in my opinion. They beat Jacksonville State easily week 1. Week 2, in a close game at Arkansas, they lose. They beat SMU, but barely because it's a rivalry game. Pretty much a rivalry game. They lose at Oklahoma State big time. They lose to West Virginia at home. They lose at K-State. They beat Kansas. They lose to Iowa State, which is not what they want to see. Wait, hold on. No. Yeah, they lose against Iowa State, and then they go home all sad. They beat Texas at home. They lose at Oklahoma. They lose at Texas Tech, and then they barely edge out those Baylor Bears for that rivalry game. And then, yeah. This is falling. Texas. So you can tell, I like Texas, if you could not tell. So, just going to start off here. That was so awkward. But they beat Maryland at home. Beat San Jose State at home. They get destroyed at USC, or they keep it close, making them better than they actually look. If they keep it close against USC, then that kind of changes how I feel. They beat Iowa State slimly on the road, or barely, or whatever you want to say about it. Then Kansas State, they beat at home. They beat Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. Lose to Oklahoma State at home. They beat Baylor on the road. Lose to TCU on the road. They beat Kansas, lose to West Virginia on the road, and then beat Tech in the season finale. So they go 8-4 in their first season with Tom Herman. 8-4, 7-5, or 6-6, depending on the games against K-State and Oklahoma. Those are two of their questionable games, in my opinion. They're questionable wins. Kansas State that'll be interesting to see how the defense holds up against them. And then Oklahoma, that game's always unpredictable. So yeah. Next up, we got Texas Tech. Yeah, Texas Tech. So, Texas Tech, those Red Raiders, the Red Raiders. They start off 2-0 with wins against Eastern Washington and Arizona State. Arizona State will be a close game, just closer than people think. They lose at Houston week 3. They lose against Oklahoma State at home. They beat Kansas on the road barely. They lose at West Virginia by a big margin. They beat Iowa State at home. They lose at Oklahoma. They lose lose against K-State, they beat Baylor, they beat TCU to finish off their season, and I have them at a solid 6-6. So they do make a bowl. They lose to Texas their last week, if I didn't say that. West Virginia, they are the team I have in the Big 12 championship against Oklahoma State, and they beat Virginia Tech week 1 in a neutral location. I don't know where it is. They beat East Carolina. They beat Delaware State. They beat Kansas on the road. They beat TCU on the road. They beat Tech on the road. They beat Baylor on the road. They beat Oklahoma State. So that's their upset. They beat Oklahoma State. They beat Iowa State, and then they get stunned by K-State, and K-State beats them. If I said West Virginia beats K-State, I didn't mean it. I meant K-State wins. K-State wins because they're at home. They got the power at home. They beat Texas at home. West Virginia does. And then they lose at Oklahoma, so they end up being 10-2. Big 12 championship will be Oklahoma State against West Virginia. It's going to be a lower scoring game than the regular season matchup, and Oklahoma State will edge out West Virginia 17-14. So that's my predictions for the Big 12. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Deal with it. So, yeah, that's enough for today.